This is Chapter 1 for Geometry. This is the second day. This is Part 2 on the midpoint and distance formula. We're going to call this Day 5. Using our assignment sheet, that should be Day 5. Okay, we look at the formula, and our new formula we haven't talked about yet is x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. You add the x's and divide by 2, so it's the average. So here we're going to look at the endpoints and we're going to find the midpoint. Where is the midpoint if these are the endpoints? So one way to do that is to label your points. And we're looking for the x's. So -2 plus 4. The midpoint formula is the only formula to put a plus in between the x's. A plus in between the y's. The distance formula had a minus there. So the y values would be 5 plus 3. So -2 and 4 more is 2. 5 and 3 is 8. Still have the denominators of 2. And then we come up with 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So that should be our midpoint. 1 over and 4 up. Should be 1 comma 4. 1 comma 4. Now the tricky part is when we're trying to find the endpoint. Think about what we did here. This was our midpoint. 3 4 is the midpoint. So if we know 3 4 is the answer, it's the answer to the x's. So you have your x value plus this x1, okay, or we can call it x2 if you wish, divided by 2, and this is going to equal the midpoint of the x. We're going to have our y value plus the y2 over 2 equals the midpoint of the y. So we're going to say that the midpoint x and midpoint y, here we'll call this x2 and y2. What we're looking for is the other endpoint. We'll call that the x1, y1. We don't know what that part is. So we'll plug in our numbers now. X plus 1 over 2, that equals the midpoint. Now the midpoint is actually 3. To solve for this, we multiply the denominator to the other side to get 6. And we say x, when we subtract 1, we get 5. In this case, we're going to plug in the y2, which is a 6. The midpoint y value is a 4. Multiply by the denominator to get it out of the bottom. Subtract the 6, and y equals 2. So our answer is going to be 5 2. That's this other point. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2. Another way that we could handle this problem, instead of using the formulas make it tricky, but that's more mathematical. You could look here and just count. You're going to go down 2 and over 2. So now you're going to go down 2 and over 2. So this is your endpoint, and you can just look at the coordinates to see where it is. 5 over 2 up to get here. Alright, now we're going to look at example 3. Here's our problem. We're going to find the length of this given segment. So this is 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's one way to have done it. You can also say that -3 minus 6 and you put that in absolute value bars, gives you a value of 9. That's the mathematical way to handle that. The bars are absolute values. That forces whatever your answer is to be positive. You can't just count all the dots because you would count the 10th dot as being the 0 location. You count 1 in, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, if you begin at the leftmost point on the segment, what is 1/3 of the distance all the way through? So if you're going to stand here and you can jump to 1/3 of the distance, how far is that? Well, 9 is the whole thing. And we're going to multiply that by 1/3 because we want to know what is 1/3. When you multiply here, we like to turn this into a fraction. Multiply the top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers, and we get a value of 3. So 3 is 1/3 of 9. Now we have to count from here. 1, 2, 3. 0 is 1/3 that distance. What point is 1/3? 0 is 1/3 of that total distance. What point is 2/3 from the leftmost point? Well, if 1/3 is 3, 2/3 should be twice that amount. If you didn't quite understand that, we can say we have 9, and we're going to times it by 2/3. Turn this into a fraction. Call this 18 over 3. Gives us 6. From here, count 6 spots from the leftmost point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the location, or the point value that is 2/3 the total distance, is the location of 3. That would have been 3 to get here and 3 more to get past it. A total of 6. From here, let's try it with this. Find the length of the segment. Well, -6 minus a 4. That can be quicker than trying to count it. So we get a length of 10. So GH equals 10. If you begin at the rightmost, watch that word, rightmost point on the segment, what is 1/5 of that distance? So we're going to take the 10 and we're going to multiply it by 1/5. So if we turn this into a fraction and multiply the top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers, we're going to get a value of 2. 2 is 1/5 of 10. So now from the rightmost point we have to count 2 locations, which takes us actually to the number 2. What is 3/5 from the rightmost point? Well, we're going to take 3/5 of the total distance. So we take our 10, we times it by 3/5. That's going to become 30 over 5, which is a total of 6. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 puts us at -2. So what point are you at? You're at point -2. Now we're on the second page of today's lesson. We're looking at the soccer situation. Anna, which is at point A, was instructed to kick the ball to Cassidy. She's way over here at C. Anna has not been practicing as much as she should be, and therefore she can only kick it 40% of that total distance. How far is she going to kick it? So 40% of the total distance, what are some information that we need to know? We need to figure out what is the total distance? So AC is going to be x2 is 18. No. x2, let's call that 17. Those are the x values. 17 minus 3. The y values are the 6 and the 18. Notice that I started with Cassidy, so I had to put both numbers first for Cassidy. And then I went up here to Anna, and I had to put both her numbers second. So we come and we say that 14 squared plus negative 12 squared. So our next value, 196 plus 144. That comes out to 340, which is approximately 18.44. That's the total distance. That's the total distance in yards. Now we want to know what is 40% of that. So we multiply by 40, and that's going to give us 7.38 yards. How far did she kick it? She kicked it 7.38 yards. She kicked it 40% of what she was supposed to. If she practices and intends to be able to kick it 17 yards by next week, will it reach Cassidy? Well, Cassidy, we decided, was at 18.44 yards away. Anna is 18.44 yards from Cassidy. So the ball will be short 1.44 yards. So we could say no and give our explanation. Anna is 18 yards from Cassidy. The ball will be not quite there.